I think you've introduced something like 18 laws to stop gun violence.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of them have passed, right?
No.
Why is that?
People aren't smart enough to pass them. I don't know.
Wow, this is a meal right here.
Yeah, they do not hold back at all. I got collard greens, okra, plantains. What'd you get?
I got a curry pasta.
Nice.
That sounds really good. Why did you pick this place?
It is owned by a guy who I've gotten to know since I was doing work with the Poor People's Campaign. It's a primarily West African sort of place. A lot of it is vegetarian. You think about yams, cornbread.
Sorry, can I get some water, please? It's a little spicier than I thought.
Oh, yeah? My fiance, she does a lot of cooking. One quote said, "If you ain't sneezing, it ain't seasoning."
That's funny. I want to talk about what kind of made you a star in politics, which last year you were expelled from the state house after taking part in a gun protest.
Right.
A protest for gun regulation. Your Republican colleagues overwhelmingly voted you out.
Yep.
Eventually you were reinstated. It's been a year and a half since then. Do you still feel censored by your Republican colleagues?
Yeah. I mean, they're going to keep using the rules to silence me. They're going to keep using rules or changing rules to make it more difficult for my legislation to be heard. And they're going to do things that really fall in line with white supremacy and white patriarchy. That is only interested in maintaining the status quo. But when you grow up the way that I've grown up, the way that this entire generation has grown up with gun violence in the ways that it has seemed to increase, all these school shootings, you know there's going to be opposition and adversity, but that's not going to stop. That's not going to stop me from advocating, because their adversity isn't going to stop. What we have to do is keep growing the amount of people who are speaking up, who are speaking out, and who are fighting back against this. But my colleagues, they aren't keen to change, because they, in one way or another, are benefiting from this status quo. They're not understanding the pain of their community members who are dying oftentimes from suicide, and my community members who are oftentimes dying from homicide. They're not interested in that stuff.
I think you've introduced something like 18 laws to stop gun violence.
Yeah.
And a lot of them seem pretty simple, like making sure that every gun owner has insurance, doing things so that people won't steal other people's guns, or taking taxes from firearm sales and making them pay for mental health services in schools, things like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of them have passed, right?
No.
Why is that?
People aren't smart enough to pass them. I don't know. Look, part of the challenge that we run into here in the South, in Tennessee, is who is presenting the legislation has a lot to do with whether or not it moves forward. And if you don't capitulate to the ways that they want for you to act on their bills, then they're not as likely to engage with you on your bills. I just can't compromise my community or my values, right, for a piece of legislation. And I will say, we did pass one piece, not related to gun violence, related to environmental protection, through a subcommittee with Republican support. So we know it is possible. But when it comes to gun safety laws, they are unwilling to pass those bills, willing to even listen to most of the bills, because they do make sense. And they don't want to go on record voting against something that really could help all of us. We are going to put up more bills, probably roughly the same amount this upcoming session, because there is no issue as important as ending the gun violence epidemic. There just isn't.
Are you ready for some quick-fire questions?
Absolutely.
What's your go-to comfort food?
Ooh, potato chips and gummy bears.
Which Democrat has the most Riz?
Ooh, VP.
Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
Nice. If you had to have dinner with one Republican, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. Probably Mitt Romney.
Oh, wow.
Let's see what Mitt's doing.
Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 1,000 duck-sized horses?
Oh my God. I'd go against 1,000 duck-sized horses, man.
Really?
I would.
How often do you think about Elvis?
Too often.
Really?
It's like he's got stuff everywhere. He's like his picture, Graceland, Sun Studio. I drive by all these things.
You can't avoid it.
You can't.
Okay, do you have any Republican friends?
No, do I have Republican friends? I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some conservative friends, but I don't have people who are like, it's like if you're a Republican right now, I feel like you're a white supremacist. So I don't have many Republican friends.
Were you surprised that after the assassination attempt, no Republicans were like calling for stronger gun laws?
I wasn't surprised, but I really thought it might be possible. But you know, I'm dealing with the Republican Party. I try and keep my hopes down some. But I really was like, where's the conversation about why an individual would have access to a firearm that could kill an ex-president of the United States from hundreds of yards away? The National Rifle Association has changed the culture around politics and conversations related to gun violence that has hindered us for over a generation. Now we're going to 2 generations.
A lot of people have been frustrated with Congress because they're, like you said, not making any progress on this.
Right.
Do you think that Kamala Harris, if she becomes president, she will put enough pressure on Congress to do something about it?
Mm-hmm. VP Harris opened the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention, right? And she leads that, which is doing amazing work. Gregory Jackson and his team are just phenomenal people in getting resources down to the local level to address these problems. But we have to realize something. The President of the United States is not a queen, right? Can't do whatever she wants and wills to happen. We have to be honest and say, if we don't have a Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, if Chuck Schumer is not still the leader of the Senate, we're gonna have a much harder time passing any legislation, let alone gun violence prevention legislation. And we need to look at other levels of government for support, because the majority of things that impact our lives are happening at the state level and happening at the local level. I had the chance to meet and talk with President Obama a week ago in LA, Ocean and I, with Ambassador James Costos. And one of the things he said that was so important was that our party sometimes becomes too president-centric. And the way I have extrapolated that is we have not paid attention to city councils and who's the mayor and who's the sheriff and who's on the board of aldermen. Those roles have billions of dollars worth of budget and can create policies that impact our lives.
What do you think we can do about the NRA's influence on politics?
We got to support those local foundations for kids who've lost their lives that their parents are fighting for. We got to support our organizations financially and socially so that they can have the resources that they need to invest on their PAC side, invest in races, but also on the information gathering side so that we can teach people about the consequences of an action, so that we can go and get more proximate to those communities that are dealing with suicides and tell them, look, this problem is solvable.
So what does that have to do with the NRA's influence?
The NRA is the NRA. I'm not a member. I don't benefit from them. They are part of the problem. The way that you reduce somebody's influence is you have to build your own power and use that power to change the people who are in positions of power.
Kamala Harris has a reputation as Kamala. Have you heard that? Lots of people call her Kamala because of her background as a prosecutor.
Okay.
How do you think her background influences her relationship with those communities?
It's an interesting question. No, I hadn't heard that nickname.
Sorry that I had to be the first one to tell you about it.
Folks reaching. I think. Look, her background as a prosecutor is one that we have to interrogate. Right? You need to look at it. You need to say, what did she do good? Did she do bad? And one question you have to ask yourself: if she wasn't the Attorney General, there would have been somebody else there. And were there some things that with today's lens, we would say, oh, we wish she could go back? But the reality is she was not just an Attorney General. She became a U.S. Senator. She's become the Vice President of the United States. Right? You look at the tenure of somebody's years of service, decades of service, and you say, is this the best person who's suited to be President of the United States of America? And I think she is. I think she's the most qualified person ever to have run for the office, ever, just quite frankly. And when we look at her record, we just need to look at it in its totality and not just with one particular thing. And when you say, communities where there's a lot of gun violence are struggling with a lot of other things too. Right? It's not a coincidence that the places with the most gun violence are also the places that are typically most economically depressed, are the places where poverty has been entrenched for a long time and economic opportunity strangulated and pollution perpetuated. Right? Like the interlocking injustices that are happening in so many communities is real. And we can't say, it's only happening because people don't have a good relationship with police per se. It's because of a lot of factors, right, that are contributing to the consequences of our neighborhoods and of the violence that we are seeing.
Do you trust that she will bring that money back to our communities as opposed to overseas for war?
I think one of the main things that we have to do is make sure everybody's paying their fair share, right? Like the fact that we are even operating with a sense of scarcity is deeply problematic, because if billionaires paid just what they owed in taxes, we would get $175 billion more into our federal budget every single year. Like, there can be some decisions made that close loopholes, that ensure people who are wealthy are contributing what they need to contribute so that more money can go to the people, the projects, the communities that need them the most.
Well, on that note, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Did
this
you
was
enjoy?
this was a tasty conversation.
Yeah, it sure was.
I would love to see 1,000 duck-sized horses, man. Bring it on!
Oh my God. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it.